So, as I said, I found online ridiculous things that are totally off. For instance, some clown on the internet with thousands of views says that Kabbalah has nothing to do with Judaism, which is very unfortunate to say such a thing or to hear such a thing. It could not be further than the truth. Kabbalah is dubbed in the Zohar as Nishmasa Deiraisa, the soul of Torah. The soul of Torah, the soul of Judaism. It's as if you say that the blood in our veins has nothing really to do with our body. I mean, it's similar to such a profound statement. The Torah, all of Torah was given at Matan Torah, at Sinai. The Pshat, the Remez, the Drush, the Said, the 4 levels of understanding Torah, including Said, the secrets, which is Kabbalah. And actually, the part of Torah which was more revealed, which was mostly revealed, at Sinai was the Kabbalah, was the mysticism, was the secrets of the Torah. Why is that? So the Rebbe explained here in Sharei HaMoyadim, page 201, which was taken from Hisvadi's Tovshimam Zayin, 1987, first volume, page 239, Sefer HaSichas Tovshin Nun, 1990, third volume, page 502, and page 254. So there he explains like this. At Sinai, at the day of Mount Sinai, at the revelation of Sinai, all we heard from God was the first 2 of the 10 commandments. Every Jew heard directly from God. And then Moshe related the other 8. But that day, we were given the 10 commandments. How many commandments? I made a bracha before. How many commandments are there in the Torah? 613. 613. So, over the years, in the desert, God revealed another mitzvah, another commandment. But at that time, there were only 10 commandments. 10 of the 613. On that day. So, although the 10 commandments are the general commandments, include all the rest, but still there are 10 out of 613. However, the level of secrets of the Torah, all Jews saw what's called the Merkava, the relation of godliness, the Ma'aseh Merkava, the chariot, quote unquote. So they saw godliness. Vayered Hashem al Sinai. God descended on Mount Sinai. So it wasn't something that they just studied, it's something that they saw. Sight is much more powerful than just studying. However, after Sinai, after this event, regarding actual sitting and studying Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu actually taught us, Moshe Rabbeinu taught us the revealed part of Torah. In the most part, it was the revealed part of Torah. Because the secrets of Torah was revealed, the learning of it was revealed only after many generations, in the later generations. Because in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, the time of Tanaim and Amoraim, of the Talmud, it was studied only by very, very few. However, at Sinai, the Jews saw it. So, it's actually introduced at Sinai. And we have to understand that it's all one Torah. It's all the same Torah. It's all different layers of the same essence. The mystical interpretation of a verse in the Torah does not negate the simple meaning of the verse. It complements it. It's the very inner dimension of the verse. But it does not negate, it does not contradict the simple verse. It's all part of one essence of one Torah. many years ago, many, not so many, maybe 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little more, maybe 15. I used to live in Manhattan Beach, and I don't remember how I got hold. Maybe I saw a flyer of Kabbalah classes. So I said, I'm gonna go check this out. What are they selling? So I dressed up. I think I put a cap, whatever it was. Didn't help too much, my disguise. But I sat through the class, and I remember what was said then. It's a long time ago, but I'm not sure if I liked what they said, didn't like what they said. But afterwards, I started talking to the guy that was teaching, or one of the managers. And I asked him if he puts on tefillin. He tells me, tefillin? Do you know what tefillin means? First, you have to study the Kabbalah of tefillin and what it means, and then I could put on tefillin. So you're kidding me? You didn't put on tefillin today? What's with you? So this is unfortunate. And this is perhaps why, actually I believe that the teacher, the main teacher of this group, was saying what I was saying before, that, actually a student of his, I think it's all one group, that Kabbalah has nothing to do with Judaism, which is obviously beyond ridiculous. Perhaps that's why people were scared to learn Kabbalah, or to allow people to learn Kabbalah, because you can sometimes go totally astray. On the contrary, learning Kabbalah, Chassidus, learning the inner parts of Torah is supposed to give you enthusiasm and inspiration and strength and a deep appreciation of tefillin, of the mitzvahs. For instance, when you study the inner part of Torah, you understand that Torah is not just a story that happened many years ago. In addition to that, it's the wisdom and will of God Himself. And when you study Torah, your mind, your intellect becomes united with God's intellect. It's amazing. Not to go into all the details now. The only way you could, a finite being, a finite creature, could connect with the infinite God is through a mitzvah. As we're going to explain, God willing, in the future, more details. The more of this that we study, the more vitality, chayas, excitement, joy, passion we're supposed to have in fulfilling the mitzvahs and studying the Torah, not the opposite. So therefore, there's a big rule in Torah in general. It's brought down in Rambam. I don't have the source now. It's based on I believe it's based on a verse. Basically, if the person is studying Torah, is not just a wisdom. They call it the Kabbalah, they call it a science. It's ridiculous. It's not just a wisdom like any other. It's God's wisdom. It's holy. It's divine. So therefore, the one teaching it is supposed to be a God-fearing person. Who wrote the Zohar? The Rashbi, Mishum B'Yechai, the Holy of Holies. The Arizal revealed great secrets of Kabbalah 450 years ago in Tzfat, Holy of Holies. The Baal Shem Tov, great tzaddikim. Also, before you listen to anybody online or whatever, you have to always ask for a source. Anybody could say nice things and a lot of polish and whatever. You have to always quote a source. When I teach, I always try to quote sources. Look, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Sfarim which we're going to quote from, which we're going to open. We already opened one. There's 6 more. Sources, very, very important. Especially Kabbalah. Kabbalah means received wisdom. It's only very, very few that God reveals these great secrets of the Torah, like the Arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, the Mishum B'Yechai, the Rabbeim. But the rest of us can only try to understand their words. So therefore, we must always quote sources and try to stay as much as possible well, not try to always, more than that, that's a mistake, to always try to understand their holy words. That's all we're supposed to do. Simple people like me and you, we're supposed to try to understand as much as possible their holy words. Sometimes in a different place it's explained better, in a third place it's explained a little better. That's an old rule. The Torah is sometimes poor in one spot but rich in a different place. There it explains more than here, but you can't just blobble. You gotta always see what the holy books say, what are the holy tzaddikim write. So before I quote this letter from the Rebbe, let me talk about something very interesting. We know that Rabbeim told us that the Baal Shem Tov had a very, very unique teacher, a unique Rebbe. This Rebbe was none other than Achia HaShiloini. Achia HaShiloini was one of the prophets of the Tanakh. He was the Rebbe of Eliyahu Hanavi. Achia HaShiloini was the Rebbe of Eliyahu Hanavi, of Elijah the prophet, the one that comes for the Pesach Seder, the one that comes to every bris, his soul. So he was an actual prophet, thousands of years ago, an actual human being that lived on earth. Then his soul comes to the bris, etc., to the Pesach Seder. So his Rebbe was Achia HaShiloini. There's recorded in this book, Hatomim, page 11, various letters that were found from the Baal Shem Tov, where he describes how Achia HaShiloini revealed himself to him and taught him the great secrets of the Torah. When he was 26 years old, it seems like it was a period, from what I understood, it was a period of 10 years. But it's a famous thing in Chabad. We have such a tradition. It might be in other Hasidic circles as well. That the Rebbe of the Baal Shem Tov was Achia HaShiloini. So before I read from this letter of the Rebbe, I wanted to mention that. It's like a little introduction. And also, we're talking about letters that we have here, quite a few letters of the Rebbe. Now, don't think that I know all these letters. I don't. I'll give you part of my trick. And that is that in the end of every book, you have index of different inyanim, meftech inyanim, different concepts. Not only that, but in there are over 30 volumes, maybe 35, I'm not sure, of Igaz Kodesh, and of the letters of the Rebbe. And the 20th volume has an index of the first 20 volumes. So there I cheat and I pick up interesting things for tonight's class. So, before we read a letter of the Rebbe, let's just understand for 2 minutes. We won't be able to understand, but let's just talk 2 minutes about the Rebbe, about who the Rebbe was, who his soul is about. The Rebbe, from his talks and teachings and works and writings, there are over 200 volumes. 200 volumes. One person of his Chiddushei Torah, of his expounding on Torah, various levels of Torah, of his Chiddushei Torah, of his novelties in Torah, etc., etc., etc. Over 200 volumes. Interesting that the Rebbe didn't just know all of Torah beyond, but from whatever you hear, all the stories here, there's pretty much nothing that he did not know. For instance, in 1978, when he suffered a terrible heart attack, he started to speak to the doctor, one of the biggest doctors in America, cardiologist, about stem cell research. Which at that time, there were a few doctors in the world that started to talk about it. They never knew. It was like 1978. Okay. In 1980, the Rebbe spoke very strong about using solar energy. Now, 30, 40 years later, we're waking up, etc., etc., etc. Okay. The great dedication of the Rebbe to God Almighty, to the Jewish people. The Rebbe did not take not one single day vacation in 40 years, I believe even much more. But the 40 years of his leadership, he did not take a single day off. When else in history, when the Jews were dispersed around the world, was there one individual which inspired a whole army to reach out to Jews all around the world and bring them back to Judaism? When was there else such a phenomenon? So this Holy Rebbe writes like this. In volume 14, page 70. It's not such a short letter. I'm going to pretty much go straight to translation. I received a letter. This is from Yud, the 10th of Cheshvan, 1956. Yud Zayin. I received a letter from the 5th of Cheshvan. You write about the teaching in yeshiva. The curriculum in yeshiva. They're learning the Zohar, with the great book of the Kabbalah, the Zohar, which Rashbi wrote, Kisva Arizal, the writings of the Arizal. And you write that you're learning according to the way, to the derech of, etc. It's not mentioned. That he gives us light in this generation. So the Rebbe continues. Without offending or touching the honor or the essence of anyone, it's very strange to me why learning or teaching Kabbalah according to new explanations and new ways, biyurim chadashim or drachim chadashim. After the awesome words that are written about this in the Holy Zohar, and an even greater length and greater explanation, excuse me, in the introduction of Reb Chaim Vital, the great student of the Arizal, in Shar HaKdomis. And this is much more today. If this was written generations ago, how much that the Rachav was warning against learning Kabbalah, that it should be only in a way of receiving this wisdom man from man, ish mipi ish, one person directly. In other words, that you make sure that it's authentic and that you're studying it and studying it properly. It's not just something you could open up and study like any other book. This is something which has to be taught from person to person on a personal level. Allah, ish mipi ish. Allah, how much more so in our generation? Even more, what I'm wondering, now listen to this. I'm going to read the words. Shabbat b'shah, Shabal Shem Tov elov niglo dvar Hashem. The Baal Shem Tov, which to him was revealed the word of God. V'lomad mipi meirei, and he studied from the mouth of his teacher, Achi HaSheloini, the prophet Achi HaSheloini, Meirei shel Eliyahu HaNavi, which was the teacher of Eliyahu HaNavi. And Baal Shem Tov Moser HaMatana LeTalmidav, and the Baal Shem Tov gave this gift to his students, Umehem, and of them, LeTalmidav, to the students of his students. Seems like to some of the students of his students. That's what I understand it. And their Torah is spread and widespread, and the Torah of Kabbalah is widespread, and Chassidus with broad explanations, which are Yisodis Eist, and which have strong foundations. So where does this come from to explain these concepts in different explanations and in a different way? At the time when the words of our Rebbes are enlightening and explain and are explanatory, which to their light we will go to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu. Till Mashiach, this is our way. We have been paved, unquote. In other words, we have been paved the way by great masters, by great Rebbes that explained. Do you know there are I don't even count. There are many hundreds of Sfarim of Chassidus in general, Chassidus Chabad in particular, many hundreds that explain Kabbalah. Hundreds of books. A lifetime to finish. As known, back to the letter, as known the answer to the Baal Shem Tov from Mashiach, right? We mentioned in the first class that Mashiach, that the Baal Shem Tov had Aliyas Neshama, his soul ascended to Gan Eden, and he saw the soul of Mashiach. He asked him, when are you coming? And he answered, and Mashiach answered, when you spread your well springs to the outside, which is what we're doing with these classes. And even if you say that for yourself you want to learn in a different way, but how do you teach it to others like this? And I mentioned already, continues the Rebbe here, that based on what I heard from my father-in-law from the previous Rebbe, and it's also brought down in many places in Chassidus, as how fortunate is the person, is the lot, to whoever tries and works hard to spread the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, his students and the students of his students, their Torah the way they are, with the explanations according apidarkam dafka, according to their way dafka specifically, which one could be sure to go that one could be confident in this way, and whoever does this takes a part in the center, meaning that this is the most, seems like one of the most important things a person can do, because the merit of many are dependent on him. Okay, so we see a very strong letter here that why go to other sources when we have a paved path from our holy Rabbeim, the holy masters that explained various concepts of Kabbalah at great length. And this is what I'm trying to do. As a young student in yeshiva and all Torah, when we were 13, 14, we started to study this a little bit, an hour a day, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, maybe 45 minutes. But then from age around 16, 17, we started to study this 3 hours a day, every day. And sometimes I would study even additional to that. And I had good teachers, Baruch Hashem. And I always try to understand, really understand what these words mean. And the reason why I'm doing this, it took me for this class, a half hour, 30-40 minute class, 7 hours to prepare. 7 hours to prepare. Why am I doing this? Because, like the Rebbe writes, this is what we're supposed to do. This is going to bring Mashiach. Very important. So Hashem should help me and all of us to go in this way, and to be able to explain and understand these great secrets of the Torah, to explain this properly to people. So to explain a little, so this is a little bit about authentic Kabbalah, a little bit more. So really, this is not for a few minutes, but just a little bit. The first verse of the Torah. In the beginning, Hashem created heaven and earth. What's Elokim? What's God? Who's God? How do we understand God? All these questions. What means bara? What means created? How did He create something from nothing? To explain the building blocks of quote-unquote building blocks of creation, some call it the 10 Sefirot of creation. The 4 worlds, Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah. How did one creator, a creator which is totally one, how was he able to create trillions of creatures? How did a infinite creator create finite, limited creatures? All these questions are dealt with at length in Kabbalah, especially in Chassidus, at great length. So, God willing, we will go step by step, and over some time we will have a better understanding of what this is all about. Now, the worry about learning Kabbalah is a true chash. It's a true concern. In Derech Mitzisecha, I see the time is going. In Derech Mitzisecha, it's very hard to keep under 30 minutes, as much as I try. In Sheresh Mitzvah Tefillah, Derech Mitzisecha, which was written by the Tzemach Tzedek, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, he writes that in the end of chapter 2, Sheresh Mitzvah Tefillah, he writes that the Baal Shem Tov, this is the reason why the Baal Shem Tov said not to study the books of Kabbalah direct. The books of Kabbalah. Why? Because someone that does not know how to understand it properly, for instance, the Kabbalah talks about different forms, different things. God has no form. And all these things are parables. The 10 Sefirot, God is one. To understand all this properly is very difficult. And a person is supposed to be able to divest the concepts of the physical way of understanding it. And that not everybody can do. But Chassidus Chabad does that for us, explains that for us. So to study Kabbalah directly, yes, it could be dangerous. However, we have a path, a path that was made for us by the Rabbeim. We could be confident, just as long as we try with sincerity and ask Hashem to help us to understand their holy words properly. It's a different story. Then someone told me, 1 second, but I thought under 40 years old, you're not allowed to learn Kabbalah. So, I didn't know the answer. Well, I knew it's not necessarily so, but the simplest answer is the Arizal, which one of the greatest Kabbalists of all times, did not even live to the age of 40. Other Kabbalists as well. By the way, we touched upon these issues a little bit also in the first class, lecture 1. If you want to listen to it again, you can. Okay, we're going to skip around a little bit because time is going. This one, Kufay. There was letters, volume 15, page 105. It's known, the words of the Arizal and his student Rabbi Chaim Vital, based on strong pillars, that not learning the inner dimension of Torah holds back the redemption, God forbid. Makes the exile longer. The bitter exile of the divine presence, of the Shekhinah, of Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people, etc. etc. Look over there, he says, the awesome words that your hair will stand, from what the Rachav writes over there. Who could come after the king, after the Rachav, the Rizal, the Rachav? We're holy people. So that's what it is. So therefore we have to study this, but study it properly. I believe I addressed this. I'm almost trying to address this question. The first class, why, if it's so important, why wasn't this studied for thousands of years? It's very simple. The Rebbe answers in a letter over here. No, a different letter. Okay, let me find it. Yeah. Okay, again, volume 15, page 283. He writes like this. He said, people are healing for years, taking medicines. Medicine is the art of thousands of years. But when there's a new sickness, God forbid, a new illness, you take new medicines. So he says you can't, and this is written in 1957, that there's so much more darkness in the world, that's why we need more light. This is 1957, before the internet, a few decades before the internet. You imagine today the darkness of the world, how much more so we need this to heal us from the various spiritual dangers and winds that blow outside. Okay, now I'm going to conclude with this, a very powerful letter, and I have a personal connection with the content of the letter. My parents. This is very powerful. Basically, here, and I'm going to first say this a little bit. I'll talk about this outside. You know, Chabad is people have a lot of opinions about Chabad. You know, some people love Chabad, some people this, that. And some people criticize Chabad. So I have one thing to tell them. You know, you have a doctor, I'm giving you an example. You have a doctor that's healing people, one after the other, after the other, after the other. He knows nothing. One second. What are the results? Things that, people that no one else was able to heal. This guy's healing like this. He must be doing something right. What I'm saying is like this. A little based on that letter. The Soviet Union, whoever does not know what it is, and does not have a real understanding, not read about it or hear, an American boy, it's very hard to understand. But basically, you're talking about a country that was imprisoning millions and millions of Jews. If a parent, my mother, okay, what I talk about? If a parent would be caught teaching a child any type of religion, the parent could be arrested, taken away, Siberia, the child could be arrested, like this. No jokes. How to say Shema Yisrael, how to make a bracha. This was the reality. This is the reality. Now go educate children in Judaism in such a, for a week we could handle it, a month. How about a year? How about a decade? How about decades? The 1930s, there's a lot to talk about this, but in the 1930s, they took away the Chassidim that were teaching children Torah, and the Mohalim, the one that did the Brisson, and they took him away, never to come back again. Bunch of them, shot to death. And you think the Chassidim stopped? No, they continued. In a different hiding place, risked their lives. So, in this letter, the volume 11, the Rebbe's letter, page 337. So those that, and I'm translating almost word for word, those that were under the power of the Soviets, from all those that went to yeshivas, the various yeshivas, unfortunately, to our pain, to our great pain, the only ones that stood in the test for decades, for tens of years, that were there, were only those young ones, those youth that learned Chassidus. And not those that learned only Nigla, only Talmud, etc. That was the right Talmud, only Nigla, which is obviously Talmud and Chumash, everything else, but did not learn Chassidus. Or even those even those, not those that studied Musar, that also wasn't enough. They also couldn't handle this terrible pressure. And according to the tens and hundreds of testimony of people, and many of them are now in Israel, of these witnesses, it says in Torah, two witnesses could establish something, the truth. So here you have tens and hundreds of witnesses. And whatever is famous does not need proof. But look into it. I'm telling everybody, it's a very sad part of our history, of this terrible oppression. And no, God forbid, no one could blame Jews that couldn't hold out. But the fact is that those that learned Chassidus stood, and they're right here, the only ones. The only ones. This was written in 1955. My father was born in 1939. My mother in 42, I think. They came out of the Soviet Union in 1971. They had their own goat for Chalav Yisrael, through Russia, through the whole hell of the Soviet Union. My father wrote a book like this called Samarkand, a book of, I don't know, 700-800 pages about all this, the underground work, how they would teach other Jews Torah and children, etc., etc. So no one should tell me about the power of Chassidus, which is Kabbalah today, is explained in Chassidus, and the Rabbeim. Okay. So, with this we conclude the class. Unfortunately, we're up to almost 40 minutes. I'm sorry. I tried to, as much as possible, keep it under 30. Please join us on our journey. Next week, B'li Neder, Mitzvah Hashem, B'li Neder, we will start the actual classes on the essence of God. We will start from the Rambam and the Maharal, and continue from there. We'll see how much we'll cover. We know the Maharal was also a great Kabbalist. Okay, so I hope you're going to join us. And this is a very special journey. We try to keep it 30-40 minutes a week. Sometimes we're going to skip a week because I don't always have 5-7 hours to prepare. But I'm trying to give you the best quality classes. I'm putting a lot of hours into this. I'm taking this very seriously. And it's very important that you should listen from now on. These are all introductions. From now on from next week starts the real stuff. It's important to not to lose the connection, because it's like a whole chain of events. Not chain of events. It's like a whole chain of from creator to creation. And if you miss a week, it's online. It's on the channel. You could watch it later, watch it in your own convenience. We have over 700 people that we send the WhatsApp to. So, but remember, this is a beautiful journey we're going to go together. And I really hope you're going to join. Therefore, I urge you to subscribe. To subscribe on the channel. So like this, you automatically get the class. And like this, you don't miss out. If you miss one class, it's going to be a little bit difficult to continue, although we're going to try maybe to give 3 minutes of synopsis at the beginning of the class, the synopsis of last class, but still, I urge you to please try to bear with me 30-40 minutes a week, or sometimes a second week, to join us on this beautiful journey of learning the great secrets of the Torah, which was hidden from us for millennia, and now open for us to drink and get inspired, to get closer to Hashem, closer to the Torah, and bring Mashiach much closer. Hopefully, Mashiach now. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good night and all the best.